Hi, I'm Mike Hogston. This is a video about what happens when a business commits to treating its employees fairly and with dignity and respect and takes action to fulfill that commitment and the employees feel it and believe. Stay tuned. First, if you don't know me, I'll give you a little bit about the background and why I ended up here talking about dignity and respect. I was a law enforcement officer in Miami Beach, went to law school at University of Miami at night, got out of there and was litigating commercial disputes, issues between businesses. About 23 years ago, I had a client that was a security company. Got into litigating for them, developed a good relationship, and right after 9/11, they needed somebody to help them manage litigation relating to that. I went in-house and stayed with the business for over 20 years. The reason I went in-house is relevant to this story. So as a litigator, someone that supports one side in an argument between two businesses that are in a dispute, I enjoyed the academic part. I enjoyed getting to know clients and being an advocate for their position. But after a while, what happened is I found that I poured myself into those issues fully, and when the issue finally gets resolved, the relationship with that client essentially goes away. There may be another problem that you need your help with down the road, but that was the nature of the type of work that I did. So when I had this client who was a security company and they needed help, I was really attracted to that. And over time, what I really liked about being in-house was not just fighting about things, but building something. And that really was the kind of the underlying story for my career within the security industry. I was always looking for ways to make the business better. So I was a chief compliance officer, I was a lawyer. We pushed a lot of issues, but the issues that I could improve through the business usually were lessons learned from either litigation or something that went wrong and now we're trying to improve a process. They were important, but they were incremental. What happened over time is because I could improve the business and because I was partnering with the business, I got involved in more and more things. So ultimately, when this dignity and respect issue became a reality for me and I understood the impact of it, I was in charge of legal, compliance, risk management, enterprise risk management, our insurance program, and U.S. government compliance for contracts worldwide. I was general counsel for a North American region of a global security company. We had about 50,000 employees in our region. Back in 2013, we started a dignity and respect campaign as part of our compliance program. That campaign started really trying to solve a discrete issue. It was an issue brought up in a survey from our compliance team members, and they wanted to improve outcomes when employees brought issues to managers and supervisors. What we found, at least according to the compliance team, was that managers and supervisors often made those issues worse. And this was a big deal. Issues that are significant enough for an employee to bring to the business don't go away. So if we don't solve them, they bring them to others, whether it be customers, regulators, lawyers, media. They leave the company, bad things happen. So this was a big issue, but it was a very discrete issue that we were trying to solve. What we found with dignity and respect is that it solved that issue and so much more. And that was the part of it that really got to me, that impressed me. And it was a journey. So a journey of years where we went through this process. I was doing workshops, 3 to 4 hours each, with groups of about 20 people, usually managers, supervisors, leaders. And what I found is in that 3 to 4 hours, there would be a transformation of that workforce. It changed the environment, it improved things. It from that date forward, and I could say that with confidence because I tracked this for 8 years. So I knew that when I met with a group that was in a workshop and we found solutions and we improved, those improvements were lasting. And I talk about this and really see that those lasting improvements are something similar to when people say, I wish I wouldn't have seen that, and they're talking about something bad. You can't unsee that. They're talking about in the context of something usually bad and traumatic. But the same is true in a positive way with dignity and respect. It's not, once you see these concepts, you understand the ideas, and those changes happen, you can't unsee it. It makes sense, it works, it's true, and the positive changes last. You can't go back once you've seen it. And this video is intended to be short, so I can't get into the details of all of it. But what I found over time is that those changes, we did discrete workshops, we spread these concepts through the business. The changes were like ripples in a pond. When people understood the concepts and they started acting and interacting with dignity and respect, incrementally over time the business changed. The improvements continued. And I was probably 6 years into the campaign, head of all these programs that are generating data that I could see. And the only explanation I could find for the scope of the changes, scope of the improvements to the business was dignity and respect. And as I looked into discrete issues and looked at discrete metrics, it all came back to the same thing. Those positive changes that happen at the employee level through the dignity and respect campaign continue to improve the business over time. So for me, looking at this, it was consistent with my view of what am I supposed to do with my time? I stopped being a litigator because I really wanted to build something as an inside lawyer. As an inside lawyer, you think about the discrete things that I would do. I would be responsible for litigation, negotiation, solving problems, building teams. But all of the things that I did in that role were really kind of support functions and usually came from a perspective of a problem that we were solving or an issue that we got through, and these are the changes we needed to make systemically to improve the business. What was happening with dignity and respect was on a whole different level. So I would go into an office, we would have a dignity and respect campaign workshop, and the changes that I saw from that work was from the ground up. You go into an office where there are people that are struggling with relationships, they're struggling with their purpose at work, they're struggling with whether or not they're appreciated, that they don't feel that they belong appropriately. I've even had people say that the Dignity and Respect campaign gave them hope in a very general context. So what happens in the workshops is very immediate, dramatic, and lasting. What happened to the business from the campaign that we did, we started with workshops. We, over time, did workshops across the business, probably hitting 15% of locations in over a matter of years. But that campaign that we spread through webinars and other communications, the commitment of the business was to treat employees fairly and with dignity and respect. What this campaign did is it made it real for employees. They saw the business commitment. They saw the changes that were happening. They heard the leaders that talked about dignity and respect in a way that never happened before. They saw the changes in the people that are driving the business, and it became a normal part of what we did. So for me, from a legal compliance, risk management perspective, this was transformational. This was something that drove something that I could not do if I was traditionally working in my legal and compliance role. But why does this work? You know, I'm saying all this, and I don't have time to get into the details of all the whys and how it happens, but why does it work? When you see the logic of the why, it makes more sense. First, employees want to be treated fairly and with dignity and respect. When I'm speaking about dignity and respect, I'll often ask people, who would like to be treated fairly and with dignity and respect? All hands go up. I've never had a person say, no, I'd really like to be treated unfairly and disrespectfully. It's a very basic idea, but it's not something that anyone has ever said to me in any job. I've been working since I was 8 years old, up to this job where we came up with this concept of committing to treat each other fairly and with dignity and respect. I never had an employer say, hey, this is how you should treat each other. It's a commitment and it's a change. And when employees hear, hey, I can be treated fairly and with dignity and respect, and the way I do that is I start to treat others fairly and with dignity and respect, it's what they want. When employees believe that the business is committed and does treat them fairly and with dignity and respect, the relationship between the employees and the business changes. And of course, the business acts through people. So it's the interaction between the people that changes. And if you think about how far-reaching that is, consider a person that you care about, a relationship that is significant to you. How do you treat them? When something goes wrong, what do you do? When they need help, what do you do? Well, that's really what happens in the business. As we treat each other fairly and with dignity and respect, our relationship changes. It becomes something that is more akin to mutual commitment, not boss-employee. We're in this together. And if you think about the impact that has on the business, it's dramatic. No longer take something like litigation. If it's something that the employee is dealing with personally, their way to come to the business and find a solution is very different from what an employee does when they're in a position where they really don't like the business, they don't like their boss, they don't like the people they're working with. From the outset, it's a very different relationship than when they know that the other person that they are trying to address an issue with cares about them and does try to treat them with dignity and respect. It's very different. The other thing is, this is not another thing to do. Dignity and respect is not like, okay, I got to do my schedule, I got to get my workbook done, I have to fill out these papers to send in these forms. Oh, and now I got to do my dignity and respect. Okay, okay, I can smile. No, it's not like that. You don't have to think about dignity and respect as another thing to do. What dignity and respect does, and why dignity and respect drives continuous improvement in the business, is it's not another thing to do. It's doing everything we do better because we're interacting with dignity and respect. This is an intro. This is me trying to give you some idea of what I learned over a period of a number of years. If you found value in this message, like the video, share it, click on the thing for notifications, and stay tuned for more. Thank you.